Just watch the fucking
I
show.
can only pity.
Are you feeling okay?
Our tragedy unfolds once again.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Well, 2 years only to scrap a major project due to time constraints, and now people are ticking their bucket list due to de facto World War III. I might as well join them. The bucket list, not the front lines, anywhere but there. So, Your Lie in April.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The last time I tried publicly taking a crack at this show was as a dumbass 19-year-old that didn't think to inquire as to what a cold body was. If you know, you know. Meanwhile, having no accolades in video script writing, overly eager to scratch an itch of a show he passionately hated and still avidly disliked. I won't dance around this, that video was a mess, and so was my response to criticism. That doesn't change my overall verdict on the series all that much, but I'd be remiss not to bring up any of it. Hence, on a run back, a lot of what you knew about that state of affairs, all gone. I won't be referencing it. With the exception of scraps of my old script and Scholar Otaku's Your Blunder in January, because me, and for reasons of constructive feedback, trying to get through this project without referencing those documents would not be worth the difficulty. Why? Because of a hence scrapped response to Scarlett's video written by me a few years ago named Revision of Ridicule, a commentary of my own which ordained to take Scarlett's sharpshooter video and prove collective improvement in my critical spectrum of the show. The reason that video was scrapped, you enjoin? Well... 1. I still had a Twitter alt I wanted to keep around, the hence suspended Sino scaling account, only to find that Elon is a twat, so I've abandoned the site entirely. You might wonder what this has to do with my takes on Your Lie in April, and it's only because I didn't want to look like I was picking a fight unprompted with anyone because I had nothing better to do. Sounds pathetic, I know. 2. My old hard drive was on the brink, so when deciding what to do for video projects in its own dying days, the idea for my Gurren Lagann video was born. Hence, I redoubled my own efforts on that, decided to give the SEO Villains video an attempt, and, well, I think you all know what happened next. Congrats to the late Hideo Noben. You got your wish. As a corollary to all of that, a third thing came up within ROR. Yes, that's what I'm abbreviating it to because Black Cats are running gags now, and no, that doesn't just include Chelsea. Is that several examples of better comparisons, such as the brief mention of Yusuke from Persona 5 in proximity to Kosei, or the yet briefer mention still of SEO's Gun Gale Online arc when suggesting exposure therapy, were inferred from the given material and were not actually verified. In other words, I had not actually binged all of SEO, nor played either revision of Persona 5 at the time. Big no-no for analytics like me, huh? Funny how much of a game of whack-a-mole finding examples can be, because I have given myself choice paralysis. I could link to said script prior to the release of latter-day parts of this here project, and technically what remains of that script can be read as an unorganized ramble, /op-ed, /editorial, Jesus Christ, I like using a lot of these terms, don't I?
Let's throw out a few more words that don't actually mean anything. Blinking kangaroo stovepipe.
But it should be said that ROR is already semi-public, somewhere in the depths of my postings on Versus forums and buried somewhere within the Enel Cordian server. So if you want to find it, then the immortal words of General Pepper, good luck. I won't sit here and act like all of my thoughts within that document are 100% accurate to today, but enough of it is still intact to be worth referencing. And to make no mistake, there are some remarks in that reply that will be brought back here. Although if it's any food for thought, some of the analogies in that document are rather roundabout, and I plan to rectify that today, or whenever I get parts of this project out. I was half considering sanitizing what remains of that document, but it's just easier to focus on the better bits when they're relevant. Anyway, that was a lot of tangential housekeeping. This is the part where we start with the actual video subject, right? And we will after a bit more preamble. So, let's pop a few things on the table. Firstly, I want to make it clear that I'm going to be doing away with any story synopsis this time around. 1, for the sake of time, and 2, because it's ultimately easier to just assume that the people going into this video wanting to watch some pillock from the UK talk about his hot takes on depressed people, classical orchestra, and terminal illness have actually sat down to watch the show in question. No, I haven't gone on record about how spoiler warnings are cringe and overrated. What are you talking about? Second off, and this is important, I need to clarify that in the event that I do bring up anyone real for the purposes of condolences throughout these parts, my comments within this project will not be aimed at those individuals explicitly, but around a subject matter and respective general circumstances that may or may not have concerned them. I foolishly believed then that I had made such a sentiment obvious, but most of all, I venture to make that clear now. Mentions are not condemnations or endorsements, and whatever other terms you could allocate to that. Cool? Bitchin'.
And I assure you, no Chris Tales will be harmed in the making of
I suppose with enough pressure I might cave. Third off, I'm not going to bother with a retake on the subtlety stuff. I still think it's an issue, especially when considering how ingrained into the show's DNA it is, not to mention every classical musician being rattled off at Mach 15, but as I said in ROR, it's like going after Hitler for his economic pursuits and not the fact that he committed the Holocaust of a bunch of Jews. And no, I don't care for current conflicts one way or the other. I hate the Israel and Gaza terrorist state in equal measure, and you should too. Finally, and this is a bit of an interesting anecdote, well, the last 3 times I watched this show was in varying provisions of subs. For this one in particular, I ended up watching the show in the English dub, which, as said dub, was honestly better than it had any right to be. Not as a show, mind you, but okay, let me explain. The past few years seem to have readjusted my ear for voice actors closer to my native home. Not saying that the US is closer to Britain than Japan, but you know what I mean. Not only does this mean that there were parts of the show I could actually glean legitimate entertainment from, knowing that I was listening to those unfamiliar waters again, but the way that the script was revised, while not availing Your Lane April of much, if any, of its rotten, overflowing kettle of narrative fish to fry, actually made some of its themes a little bit clearer to me. A little, mind you. That much got me wondering something when considering what I wrote in ROR, a video script made with subs in mind. Could there have been miscommunications in what I gleaned from subs all those years ago, as opposed to what was changed for the dub to voice? We'll see that as we go. The fact that I'm putting these comments in a segment literally named a small section I can't really fit anywhere else may seem reminiscent of a few accolades I tried to crowbar to the front of my previous attempt, and in a manner of speaking I am doing the same now. Why? Because I think the actors themselves are worthy of praise, even if the material they're a part of I can't give the same acclaim. Max Middleton as Kosei, while initially leaving me skeptical of the casting choice knowing his voice is Ryuji and the like, managed to make the tone work for him, with the same kind of impression going to Erica Mendez as Tsubaki. Erica Limbeck as Carrie was a genuine surprise, despite my ire towards the character, getting across those bubbly energy ball vibes without much issue. Also, given the subject matter of the character Erica was playing, bless her heart, really. But a surprise star of the show for me was Kari Karinen, I'll probably butcher that pronunciation, as Seto, who was equal parts hilarious and intensive despite bumps in the road of the character she had to play, which, given she's the voice behind Satsuki Kiryuin, Lavenza and Irina Akalov, probably isn't a surprise. And the rest of the cast isn't that much weaker either, although hearing Keith Silverstein, Robbie Daymond, Patrick Seitz and Doug Stone reduced to such minor roles was strangely humorous, and not for lack of trying. Wendy Lee, for example, brought tonal balance better than I was expecting to the table, whilst delivering some admittedly guttural lines given who Saki is. A couple of those takes are slightly more subdued than I would have pegged for such a role, but a complaint that most certainly is not. Although, given her recent outburst on Twitter, am I supposed to find it ironic that she's playing the abuser here? Because people were making similar jokes about Vic playing a sex pest, and I'll give no comment there. Something Bleach should never have been a race issue, etc. Right, okay, wait. The only voice performance I don't quite gel with is Carl McCarley as Watery, and not for his lack of fundamentals, but when comparing his portfolio containing Alm from Shadows of Valentia and Hal from Astral Chain to here, his inflections sound far more like Yuri Lowenthal, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. Sit down, Winnicott, wait your turn. Although I suppose while we're on the subject of auditorial quality, that remark I made way back when about the soundtrack being good as well as graphical fidelity that can make KyoAni sneeze still holds up. This is one pretty siren song visually, but so are the ones from Mythology, and remind me what happened there. Yep, pretty telling knowing what can be learned about the cautionary tale that this show most certainly is now. We can now commence my revised thoughts on why Your Lane April is not a good series. Action start. minutes.
Cause baby, I like the way I'm lost in you. I like the hell you put me through. I keep on chasing after you. Can you feel the fever? You give me a fever again.
Wait, this is apple juice. Shit, he was right. Nobody really does have that much beer.